Okay, everybody. So today we're just going to take some time. I'm going to take some time and talk to you about how to effectively take some photos with your phone. Okay. So the first thing that you want to do if you're taking photos for that are going to be used, first thing you're going to want to do is clean that lens. Okay. If they're stuck caked on, let's see if I can. Yeah. Looks pretty good. Yeah, say hi to Pikachu. My son really likes Pikachu, so that gives him something to look at on my phone. Um, but regardless, so the first thing you're going to do, make sure that lens is clean before you start taking photos. Honestly, there's nothing more annoying than seeing smudgy pictures and like foggy pictures that could otherwise be dealt with. The next thing that you're going to want to do is go into your, not air miles, you're going to go into your camera settings. So it's just in settings for an iPhone. You might be able to access this in the phone app for Android, but for iOS you go into camera, and the next thing that you're going to want to do is, looking at all your settings, you want to turn your grid on. This is the most useful thing when trying to compose photos using the golden mean ratio or section. Next thing that you're going to notice is I'm going to compose or create a composition using some things that I have lying around. I have a lot of retro video game stuff, so this is going to start the theme of what I'm working on. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is grab my camera, okay, and figure out these crosshairs. Now, if you remember back to one of the lessons, I was talking about quite frequently how you can use these to simulate the golden mean ratio or section. This grid that you see on your device is following the rule of thirds, which in photography has been covered quite a bit and is used very frequently. What I'm doing here, so I've put something down on a surface and I've kind of started to try to arrange the subject matter. Now, when you get, try to align your focal points with this, 1, 2, those for intersecting points. It's always strong. If you have something that's going up in the composition, so like right here is this purple and with the yellow game cartridge there. If you have something that's going up and down vertically like that, if you arrange it close to one of the vertical lines of this rule of thirds grid, then it will make a stronger composition overall. Always. And then if you have an iOS device or even Android, right, whatever you can use, make sure that you're trying to intentionally create some focal points, okay? So with this one, click on the Pikachu, and then we can take that photo. So here's a bunch of the photos that I took. With this first image, I used Charizard as a focal point, having Pikachu and the other stuff in the background. This second image is the one that I showcased in the video there, using the Game Boy as a really strong vertical tension point or subject matter. This last one, again, I was focusing on Charizard as the focal point, and his shape of his wings is actually mirrored behind the plants there. So there's a little bit of repetition between that umbrella shape of the wings coupled with the umbrella shape canopy of the background subject. There's also a lot of directional lines and things that are pointing to other parts of the composition. So Charizard faces Pikachu and points towards Pikachu there. Pikachu's tail also points towards the Mewtwo that's in the background. And there's lines created from the paper as well as the wall behind it to create some other directional lines. Okay, so the next thing you can also do, doesn't have to be for multiple subjects. So with that one, I tried to keep the yellow palette so that you would see, or you could use it for analogous colors. So I'll have another example of what you can use to create some photo compositions. But the next thing that I'm doing here is I'm going to use a teacup. Now, another thing that I will suggest is that if you want to have really good focus on your subject matter, I really encourage you to not use the digital zoom. If you have an optical zoom, so that means where it uses lenses to like make things bigger, that's fine. Okay, so this device has an optical zoom up to 2 times. After 2 times, it uses digital zoom, and it will not keep a nice clean picture. Okay, so that means that if you want to change your perspective, then you will have to physically go forward. Here's the photo of the coffee or the teacup that I took. So this first image is just me using the rule of thirds grid, and there's something that I just want to bring to your attention is that this grid, I'm not following it 100% line part per part, because the grid is a suggestion because I'm using the golden ratio grid. Now if you can remember that one, it's a little bit skinnier in the midsection and wider in the middle. So what I'm trying to say is that the vertical lines are actually out a little bit further, and so those are the two that go up and down in the middle. They're actually separated a little bit further to the left and right side, whereas the ones in the middle are also skewed a little bit and they're pinched towards each other. So you have a little bit of a smaller box situation there. So this image is a phi grid versus rule of thirds, just as an example, and this one is another phi grid that utilizes lines to show you where there might be some stronger places to position focal points or leading lines. So between the video editing software and then the picture itself, this is the image that I came to. I'm pretty happy with it, to be honest. Again, focusing on some directional lines, but the sides of the cup are really what follow that golden ratio, that rule of thirds, as well as the foreground, middle ground, background established on those background lines, those horizontal lines. So the last one here is going to be a classic. Here, I'll just try to move this a little bit. I'm going to try to do a classic fruit still life here. Okay, so this would be great for analogous colors, or if you're trying to understand color and shadow, coloring with pencil crayons, oil pastels, chalk pastels, whatever you have. But this one, we have analogous colors in the banana, in the pear, and then also in the background a little bit, so you can see the green there. And then I'm going to use the rule of thirds grid that's in the app for my phone here, and then we'll take another photo. This is the photo I took. So you may have noticed that I'm using different modes. So there's portrait, square, photos. We're focusing on different focal points, right? But the other thing that I want to draw your attention to here is the directional lines that are created from the stems of the fruit, as well as the cool color palette that I've chosen to have edited into this photo. They both work really well with that, with the really bright intensity of the yellow pigment. That is the primary focus for this subject matter, for this photo. Hopefully this video helped in composing and creating your own photo artworks, and I look forward to seeing the things that you produce.